Right. So you've got ambient, child-made ambulance noises. I've got hens making a racket outside.
Yes.
We're good
Yeah,
to go.
absolutely. Welcome to motherhood, right?
Hello, and welcome to the Sunbloom Conversations, a series of conversations from around the world inspired by the censorship on social media of an image of a breastfeeding mother that we're going to paint on a 3-story wall in Bristol, UK instead. I'm Claire Tchaikowski, the founder of Human Milk, an award-winning clothing brand and global education movement that supports the well-being of women and their families by communicating the science of human milk and breastfeeding. Today, I'm talking with Danielle Facey, author and the breastfeeding mentor on Instagram, about our very raw and remarkably similar motherhood journeys and about our passion for giving the next generations of mothers the tools we really wish we'd had.
Have you got a cup of tea there at least?
I have actually. I have. It's just here.
Oh, well, cheers.
Essential survival kit. Indeed.
Cheers, my dear.
It's a survival, necessary, so necessary.
Yeah. So Danielle, diving straight in, your content it's joyous, it's informative, it's supportive, it's empowering, it's brilliant. I absolutely love it. And in your own words, it's what you needed and didn't find.
Absolutely. I think I lost a baby in 2014 and so was desperate to be a mom, really. I always knew that I wanted to be a mom, but then after baby loss, it was something that I lost a lot of sleep over, and I assumed that the postpartum period would just be this completely joyous, amazingly healing process because I was so desperate to be a mom, and here I was finally able to, to fulfill that role. And I was really taken aback by just how hard it was, and how little information there was about just coping postpartum, practical day-to-day support that wasn't people simply telling me to stop breastfeeding and to sleep train my child, because they were the answers. They were the answer to all of my prayers. And so I started to look for like-minded mothers online predominantly, just because I didn't really find anyone in play groups in real life who I could connect with in that way, which was hard. I just remember being asked all the time about what kind of routine I had my son in, and whether he was sleeping through the night at just a few months old, and feeling like I could not relate at all. And so I sought a community online and was delighted to find that there are many other mothers who feel exactly the same, and who were equally surprised at just how hard it was to breastfeed initially, becoming a mother, that whole transition into matrescence. It was difficult, and a lot of people feel the same and would like support and help and guidance from someone who is maybe just a year or two ahead of them, and who can say, this is normal, don't panic about that. Have you tried X, Y, and Z? It's really great for when you're feeling completely lost. So yes, that's why I started my own platform, and it's so incredibly rewarding to hear from moms all over the world who resonate with that experience, and who just need someone to say, it's okay if you want to carry on breastfeeding. I know it's hard. Here are a few things that will help you to meet your own goals.
Yeah, and you do that beautifully and with a lot of humor, a lot of grace, and it's very real. It's brilliant. It's everything you've said I relate to 100%. And I also lost a baby So
Wow, I didn't know that.
100% to all everything you've said. And that's why Human Milk started as well. Exact same reasons. Literally every word. and people along the way have said, but this should be, governments should be picking this stuff up. It shouldn't be up to us. And I'm like, well, you're not wrong.
Yes.
But in the absence of it, what do we do?
Indeed.
And that's what we do, isn't it? We do something, we do what we can. And maybe that's the pathway to change, though. Maybe that's when that groundswell is large enough.
Perhaps, yes. I know I am a huge fan of Dr. Amy Brown. I love everything that she does. And she is very vocal about how the term self-care places the onus on mothers to be making the changes to make breastfeeding and responsive parenting accessible. And I agree wholeheartedly that it shouldn't be solely on us. It's, you know, it's an issue that society should be dealing with, but it's not. And I agree completely that we need to be applying political pressure, and we need to be speaking to people who can, you know, affect change for everyone. But until that time, there are hundreds of thousands of mums around the world who need support and who just need resources and education so that they can mother on their own terms and not according to outdated, quite frankly, horrendous baby books from the 80s.
Yep, 100%. My midwife recommended about 2 months after Ellie was born that I make a big pile of those books and I set fire to them.
Oh yes, excellent.
Controversial.
Yay! Cheers to that.
Because I was worrying about his weight, and is he feeding too often, and is he doing that not right, and is that wrong, and it turns out it was all completely normal. The anxiety only came from what the clash between what I'd read in the book or what he was supposed to do and the way he'd shown up perfectly normally. But
yes,
there you go. So
I can relate completely. Yep, I feel exactly the same. It was my own expectations of biologically normal infant behavior that led me, I just kind of spiraled into this very dark place postpartum. I don't think it was depression, but certainly anxiety, because I just didn't have any awareness of what was natural and normal. And it would have been really handy. It would have saved me a lot of heartache, really. And I could have enjoyed that very early postpartum period a lot more if I'd known that everything that I was doing and my son was doing was completely normal and natural and healthy, and I shouldn't be desperately trying to put him down, drowsy but awake. And oh goodness, I hate that phrase so much. I wish I'd never heard it. I wish I'd never tried it. I wish I'd not been targeted by those wretched social media ads, which know how sleep deprived you are as a mother and how you are desperate for anything, any magic wand or course or program that you will throw money at which promises you a decent night's sleep. And I just think it's so toxic.
Straight in there. Toxic is the word. Advertising needs to grow up. It has got to change. It's got to expand into a space where it gives us honest, healthy, empowering stuff. I've had enough. I've had enough of all the stuff that you get day in, day out, about how you're supposed to look and how you're supposed to, nothing about what's real.
No.
And always with a point of selling something that depends on you believing that you're doing something wrong, right? Because otherwise, why would you need the thing?
Indeed.
And and that's sort of why we've come together really for this conversation, or certainly one of the reasons, apart from just wanting to acknowledge each other and talk to each other and really around this image of Sunbloom that's been banned on the advertising spaces of Facebook and Instagram. And it brings up the question of, so where do we get this information from? And it is brilliant that there are pages like yours, pages like Human Milk exist. It's really, really supportive. I think it's very, very important. And you mentioned your own mental health after giving birth, and the first year, very touch and go for me, very touch and go. I scared myself a few times.
Yes.
I mean, apart from anything else, just the sheer exhaustion. I used to sort of be drawn downwards to the pavement when I'd be out walking, just going, oh, that looks cozy, you know. It was, and have these moments that I can only describe as sort of psychotic episodes, really, where things were not what they seemed, and I scared myself. I got really scared. And part of that was just exhaustion. Part of that was also hormonal, and it was loneliness. I had just moved to Bristol. I didn't know anybody. And yet, well, I mean, for a start, it took me a year and a half to discover that there was such a thing as social media, as, you know, groups and pages. I thought it was just to hang out with your mates. You know, I didn't even know that it was a thing. So thankfully that seems to be growing and becoming much more normal for next generations to just go, well, yeah, of course this stuff's on social media. So brilliant.
Thankfully.
Yeah. And thank you for pages like yours that show up. I don't quite know where I was going in particular with this, but just wanting to kind of go, yes, to what you're saying, you know.
It does sound like, yeah, we've had very similar experiences. And I know from interactions with mums all the time in my inbox that it really is a universal experience of raising children in particular societies and feeling unsupported and disconnected, and as though all of the official guidance that we're given is completely at odds with our instincts as mothers. And that, oh gosh, that is such a difficult contradiction to live with when you're in an incredibly fragile physical and mental space. You're probably spending a lot of time alone within four walls, and yeah, we simply don't have those support structures, do we, anymore? And so I agree wholeheartedly that something needs to change. And it to me is ridiculous that, for instance, organizations like the American Association of Pediatrics recently changed their recommendations, which is a really good thing, and I agree, yeah, completely. It's necessary. It's overdue that they fall in line with World Health Organization recommendations and NHS recommendations of nursing to 2 years or beyond for as long as is mutually desired by mother and child. However, there then isn't any guidance about how to do that successfully. In fact, they've recently revised their safe sleeping guide recommendations. Yeah, I'm sure you're aware, and didn't acknowledge that bed sharing and co-sleeping can be done safely, and actually that it's integral to helping a mother and child to maintain their breastfeeding journey.
Absolutely. It was, I think my son was, he was 8 months by the time I surrendered and just went, oh, just, okay, fall asleep next to me. I haven't got the energy to get back up and put you back in your cot. But it took 8 months of getting up. And I mean, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a night to go and sit with him in his room, take him out of his crib, feed him, put him back in, go back to bed. An hour later, same again. 8 months of doing that because I believed that I was going to spoil him, and that this, you know, this was going to be the rod for my back and all that. I went there, and then suddenly I went, fuck it, I can't do this. Fell asleep next to him, just went, that's actually really quite cozy and comfortable. I think we might do more of this.
Completely.
8 months of struggling until I let it happen. because it needed to, because I needed it to. And then now I'm thinking, God, I could have not got up all those times.
Yeah.
but
It's
yeah,
torturous.
and it is an ecosystem, as you say. I think it's very interesting that the states have revised this, but there's no talk, as far as I know, about revising policy around maternity leave or paternity leave or anything. So you still have 2 weeks after which you have to go back to work. And within that ecosystem, how on earth are you being set up for that to work? So I get the anger and the pushback and going, how dare you tell me to do that for 2 years when I've got to go back to work in 2 weeks? Like, how does that work? So it's really, it's insidious. And it's like, how do we make this progress? How do we push this forwards? And there's something that it's been playing on my mind, and I'm gonna tell you.
Please,
I'm gonna tell you. And I have my rant. So one of the things that Human Milk's always been really careful, an absolute fundamental rule, is that we never talk about formula. We don't reference it. We don't compare. We don't use comparative language. Because for a start, there's no need to compare human milk and breastfeeding to anything else. It has so many stories of its own that it's not necessary. And also because I think that it's not necessary either to add to the many spaces in which women are already pitted against each other, and that stress and those pulls. So it really wasn't, it's not something we do. But I'm going to break that rule one time, just one time. Because since the censorship of Sunbloom, a dignified, gentle, authentic, beautiful image of a mother breastfeeding her baby, I can't. So the comparison is this: the formula industry, the 6 top formula producers in the world, spend £5 billion a year on advertising worldwide. That amounts to £36 per baby born on the entire planet every year. That's the marketing budget, right? But we can't advertise an image like Sunbloom on 2 of the biggest social media platforms on the planet where people get their information.
Wow.
Right? So I'm breaking my own rule here to go, no.
Wow. Because
another thing that Human Milk is really clear on is that we don't judge any woman for her choices. I know that there are really powerful reasons sometimes for women not to breastfeed, and I've not walked in their shoes, I've not lived their lives. So I genuinely don't judge anyone. But what I do judge is the complete absence of a level playing field in how we arrive at those decisions, right? And the absence of a level playing field in the ecosystem that we are given in which to succeed.
Absolutely.
You just spoke about the updated guidelines. Great, nurse till 2 if mutually desirable and beyond, etc. But you still have to be back at work in a couple of weeks.
Indeed. It's really interesting that actually, in spite of that horrendous lack of maternal support postpartum, breastfeeding rates in America are still higher than they are in the UK.
Yes.
That to me is mind-blowing. I mean, I don't know how I would have physically, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have coped physically being at work after I couldn't have functioned. I'd had an emergency cesarean. I was walking very tentatively and gently. I certainly could not have been roaming around a classroom or a school site delivering anything that was remotely educational, quite frankly.
I hear you. I also had an emergency C-section. Yeah, another thing we have in common. It took me 3 months to be able to sit in any way comfortably. you know,
3
this, oh, you'll be up in 6 weeks and you'll be driving and you'll be doing your, you know, and I'm like 3 months later I'm going, is it supposed to still be hurting this much?
Oh my goodness.
Is sitting comfortably supposed to still be such a massive problem? You know, I don't know how the women do it, and I want to shout out to all of our sisters everywhere and go, you are
Absolutely.
astonishing. Astonishing, and anything we can do to help is what we're trying to do. Yeah,
absolutely. Society is great at celebrating mothers who manage to do a million things at once and who have 6 children and run a business and are happily married and still look fantastic.
Yeah.
And they're probably on the verge of a nervous breakdown, because I certainly was trying to work. It was 60 plus hours a week with while I was breastfeeding my son, who was at the time awake every hour overnight, and trying to maintain some kind of relationship and family relationships and just feel like a human being. And it wasn't possible. It wasn't possible at all. So the expectations that we have now on women, on mothers, are just completely, they're disproportionate, they're ridiculous. And they are disproportionately on mothers and not fathers. That's the reality of, you know, of motherhood, unfortunately, at the moment. And I feel like we are encouraged so often to do it by ourselves, to just do it, just get on with it, to not complain and to cope. But we shouldn't have to. We should be thriving in motherhood, and we should be enjoying it, and we should be given all of the support that we need to raise children who grow up to hopefully be responsible, contributing, caring members of society. And we can't do that alone. It's not possible. And if we try, everyone suffers.
It's fascinating that such a cornerstone of the existence of the human species is ignored in such a fundamental way. It's like, oh, go do that over there and come back when you've done that thing. It's like, that thing is why you're on the planet, mate. You know? It's why any of us are on the planet. How about we work something out? And again, it's an ecosystem thing, and it's what Professor Amy Brown talks about so beautifully as well, the ecosystem, and how you can't just pin an individual mother down as being responsible for what works and what doesn't work. Because when you're in an ecosystem like that, you get swept along with so many things. And again, I think it's down to choice. I'm sure there are women who do want to go straight back to work and who look forward to it and who thrive on it, and whose babies are fine and are happy with the childcare and it works, and it's choice. I want those women to have the choice to do that as well.
Yes.
But how I guess it's just a perception of motherhood itself, really, that is to be changed. And I think we do, whether we like it or not, exist in a system that is a consumerist system where you need to be buying or selling something in order to be seen of some sort of value.
Yes.
Motherhood, where does that sit in there? Indeed. Unless it becomes this sort of playground for selling opportunities, you know.
Indeed. It really is the perfect storm, isn't it, actually, for crippling mental health to come from any kind of career to just being at home and just cluster feeding all day. I felt like I'd lost myself and really questioned my worth as an individual, which on reflection is heartbreaking, because I was doing such worthwhile work and really struggled to try to force my poor baby into a ridiculous routine that wasn't age appropriate, and just so that I could vacuum. And I don't know, maybe I even considered doing some GCSE marking 3 months after my son was born, which was just the most ridiculous thing. I could barely think straight. I was so sleep deprived, and yet I thought that I had to contribute something to our family finances to be worthy, which is just ridiculous, outrageous, really. That society makes us feel that way. Very sad.
Yes. Maybe we should take this moment to go, sod that. You know,
absolutely.
Every one of you, me, every one of us.
We're worth so much more than, gosh, the way we feed our babies, the income that we bring, it's so sad the way that society has just commodified everything and everyone, and so completely at odds with motherhood and our mothering instincts. And well, I'm speaking from experience. Again, I do not doubt that there are women who are desperate to get back to work and who are very happy to feel that their child is safe and loved and cared for by another caregiver. And that's wonderful. But that certainly wasn't the case for me. And I think it isn't the case for lots of women too. And you're right, informed and empowered to make the best choices for your unique circumstances, and your family has to be best. I mean, become, what's the word, tropes like fed is best and breast is best, I cannot bear, because they're just so simplistic and don't take into account any individual circumstances, and they place all of the onus on the mother again, don't they?
They do.
Are you being the best mother that you can be?
And I get that we're all trying to work out how to survive this, and but I guess again I go back to what mothers like you and I get to that point where we go, I've actually formed a sufficiently tangible idea of what I needed to be able to put it into practice for others.
Yes.
And that's where we start. That's really one foot in front of the other, and that's where we start,
Absolutely. Education and support, there cannot be. I don't see how that could possibly be a bad thing.
Can you hear the chicken?
I can.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's really loud. Wow.
They've got an acre to roam around, seriously. Go and be free. Oh, I think she's laying an egg in the coop. We might have to edit this out.
Right. That's hilarious. Really loud. Wow.
That's the laying process.
Goodness. But a bit like labour, really.
Every day. Can you imagine that?
Oh gosh, yes, of course they lay an egg every day. Gosh, that's gosh, I hadn't really thought about that. That's intense.
I know. It goes on for about 5 minutes, so we've got a bit of a digression chat to go on, but
fine by me. Goodness gracious.
This in, because I always want to go out and ask if they're okay and do they need anything.
Yeah, indeed. Some nice aromatherapy.
Some
breathing techniques.
And then a bit of maternity leave after that.
Yes, please. Goodness.
Go and check around and bring you some sunflower seeds and
yes, indeed. Oh, poor chicken. How many do you have?
Just 3.
Oh, lovely.
Just 3, and they roam all over the garden and the field.
Oh, how lovely.
Yeah,
it sounds wonderful.
it's pretty lovely. I lived in central London, well, not central, but West London for 16 years. And then
gosh.
Yeah, I was in Chiswick for 16 years.
Oh, lovely.
Met Neil, moved to Bristol. He's from Bristol, and then got pregnant within minutes or whatever.
Yes.
And went, yay, it's gonna be fine. And then it all
Yeah.
began, and it was like,
I mean,
okay.
I had no idea that our experiences was just so similar. The isolation of being in a new town, and
Were
just
you in
not
a
having
new space as well, a new town as well?
Yes. So
Wow.
we'd moved to Bambury. We were in London. We were living in North London near Hendon when we were only there 6 months when we got pregnant. Because I assumed that it would take a while, and really didn't expect to, as quickly as we did, because I have polycystic ovaries, and so it didn't take long at all. And then we suddenly realised that we didn't want to have a baby in London, and so moved to Banbury in Oxfordshire, and so didn't have anyone when my son was born. Thankfully, my mum, she's amazing, and came down every single weekend that he was, once he was born. I would have been completely lost without her. And and then just in the weeks, it was just kind of us, and it was, he was not a, I don't want to say a good baby, but he wasn't an easy baby in the conventional sense.
Mute the chicken.
So my son wasn't a conventionally easy baby, in that he absolutely hated his pushchair, he hated the car seat, he didn't want to be anywhere but in my arms. And so when I discovered how to move around, and once I was healed from my section enough to be able to carry him around, which wasn't until probably about 2 months old, it was only then that we were able to get out and start to try to find mother and baby groups. And even then, it was just, I don't know, I think I needed just practical advice about getting dressed and showered when my son would scream every single time I put him down. I just didn't know where to get that information. And when I spoke to my GP, oh goodness, they offered him reflux medicine, when actually, on reflection again, I don't think he had reflux. I think I had an oversupply, which made him spit up every time he fed. And I think he's just a sensitive child. He still is now at 3, and that hasn't changed just because he's not a baby anymore. It didn't change when he started having solids, and didn't change when he started walking and talking. That's his personality. And I just needed any guidance and support on looking after myself as I looked after a child who needed me way more than I ever anticipated.
All of this again, all of it, same, super sensitive child, very need-based, very close. You know, in the antenatal group, they said, oh, newborns sleep about 17 hours in 24. And I thought, that's going to be easy.
Yes.
Why has everybody got a problem? But of course, what they didn't say was, but if you put him down,
he'll wake
up, you know.
Indeed, straight away.
And exactly what you said, I have this memory of this moment where I thought, I need a shower. I smell. I really need a shower. And I put him in the little thing right next to, you know, so that he could still see me and stuff. But it lasted about a minute, and then he started getting uncomfortable, and he hated being in the seat, and all of that, everything you've just said. And then I was in the shower going, oh my God, quick. But you know, your adrenal system just gets completely flooded with this kind of must, you know, I don't know, but maybe that's our sensitivity as well. I mean, I'd love to be able to go, he'll be fine, you know, but my body doesn't work like that.
I don't think that is just you and I, though, because our brains go through such a pruning process. When we're pregnant, we are wired to be hyper responsive to our babies. And the science tells us that's a good thing. So we shouldn't be trying to dull those senses and instincts. We should be listening to them.
At night, I couldn't believe it. Him chewing his, just kind of starting to chew his fist from hunger at night would wake me up. Just that tiny little, those little sounds. And I'd be like, yep, I'm awake, I'm here.
Yes.
The level of sensitivity that you develop is astonishing, isn't it?
It is, but it's important.
It's vital.
I think we forget that these intuitive responses have been honed by millennia of mothers who've come before us. And even though they don't seem to fit in the world that we live in, they're still really important. And actually, I've learned that when I listen to those feelings and I listen to that little voice, rather than trying to cook dinner or finish that blog post or respond to those 20 emails, I feel better, my son does. But again, it's at odds with the world that we live in, isn't it?
It is. And how wonderful is it that you and I and others get to nudge the world. That's another thing that I've been thinking about a lot at the moment. It's I hesitated with the crowdfunder because it is a lot of money that we need to be able to carry out this project. I know it's a bad time for many of us. In a certain way, sort of certainly economically, there hasn't been a worse time in quite some time to put out the word that you need money, but true. for a project like this. But then I thought to myself, every problem that we're facing now is man-made. Everything, all the shit we're facing now is man-made.
It is.
It's policy-based. It's decisions of people to take us to war, decisions of people to ignore climate change. These are decisions that are all man-made. And in a funny way, not funny at all, it makes it even more urgent. For me. I don't know if we'll manage, we'll sort it out. We'll make it happen. But it just makes it even more urgent. We've got to start investing in different things, in different, much more heart-centered, health-centered, mental health-centered.
Yes, please.
We've got to. Health of the planet, health of it's unavoidable. We're not going to have a planet on which to dither around and it's just urgent. It's super urgent. And I think the work that you do is super urgent as well. And I love seeing the following that you have and the engagement that you get. And honestly, I wish I'd known about you years ago.
Thank you. Likewise. Likewise.
You sort of specialize, if you will, as you journey with your son, and you have a very powerful passion for natural term feeding, which is also something I did with my son. He was 4 years and 8 months when he stopped, actually. So I'm also on that journey with you.
That's wonderful to hear.
It's
so refreshing, because although actually when I talk about what I do, it doesn't take long before someone says, oh, I actually did that too, or my aunt did that, my cousin did that. And
there are a lot of us around, actually.
There really are.
Yeah.
But unless you are brave enough to talk about it and to raise the topic, people don't want to, and it still is a major taboo. Just like the Sunbloom Project. Women's bodies are just so hypersexualized that people cannot understand why on earth is this ridiculous woman still nursing a child who gets all of their nutrients from solid food, as if mothers who nurse beyond infancy as standard are getting some kind of sick kick out of just nurturing their children. That to me is just such a sad state of affairs. And just speaking of my experience on social media, it's not happened. Although I did have there was a relative who made a joke about one of the characters on Game of Thrones, compared my son and I to him, which I thought was hilarious, but he was being quite serious, and I just thought, wow, how sad that you see women in such a singular way that you can't understand why I would want to nurture my son for purely innocent, loving, nurturing reasons. And that, I must be getting some sick kick out of it. That to me is just wow.
That is that I mean, I'm one of the it's insane, but then so is labeling Sunbloom sexually provocative adult content. It's such an interruption of reality that you're like, how do you arrive at this, and who are you? And we're going to talk, I've got a couple of conversations coming up, one with a neuro sort of specialist of the brain, of how we work and how we understand things, and how that's going to be really interesting, Deirdre Morrison. And also with a lady who had a very successful career in advertising and marketing and left it behind because she couldn't stand the mechanisms of what they were doing to people, to catch clients. And so those are going to be fascinating, because it's happening. It is happening, and we are interrupting very, very natural processes. And there are really serious consequences. There are serious mental health consequences and physical health consequences for mothers, and there are very serious physical consequences for babies. Yes. And I think those of us who are privileged enough to live in countries like the UK or in Western civilizations, where access to medication and medical care is so quick if we need it, but it's not the norm. No. And nearly 1 million infants die every year around the world, simply because who would survive if they were being breastfed? And that's, it's the consequences of separating us from our own instincts are really serious. I'd go so far as to say that they're criminal, but
I don't think it's a stretch at all to say that they're dangerous. Not at all, because I think you and I both got to a point where we were physically and mentally broken, in a word.
Absolutely broken, yeah.
I don't think it would have taken much at all for something really serious and dangerous to have happened to either to us as mothers or to our children. I don't think that's a stretch at all.
No.
I mother intuitively.
And you don't want to talk about that too much, because you're supposed to be sort of seen as this, responsible, capable, and and actually, you know what, we are very much all those things. But I ended up in a ball on the floor, weeping, screaming into the ground, and I actually tore some of my own hair out. I mean, that is, those moments, I can't remember how old Ellie was. He wasn't in the room, he wasn't near me, he didn't witness it. He was about 1, I think. But it was terrifying. And it wasn't inherent, it was circumstantial. And that's taken me years to get past that, because I thought, oh my goodness, it's me, I'm useless, I'm everyone else seems to be coping fine, why are you being so useless?
Yes.
Did you go through that as well?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my friend,
I felt like the crazy lady of all the WhatsApp groups, of all the play groups, right? When everyone would be talking about how things have been so great since they stopped breastfeeding and since they sleep trained, and how I really should try this method by so and so, and even the those programs that claim to be the gentlest horrified me. And when one of my closest friends recommended a program to me that I was mortified by, And she said, oh gosh, wow, that's the gentlest one I've ever heard of. And I just thought, goodness me, what are we doing to mothers and their children?
Do you know there was a mother on my antenatal group, and after the birth we saw each other just a number of times. And she sleep trained. I think her baby was about 6 months. I thought, oh, she seems fine with it. She seems, she's like, yeah, no, we're doing this. It seems to be working. And and I went round to her house one day, and it was during the process that I arrived, and her baby was crying and screaming in the back room, and she was as far away as possible in the house with earphones in, listening to music.
Oh my goodness.
And she said to me, I have to do this because I can't, if I hear her, I can't not go to her. I can't stand it. So she was splitting herself off through that method from her own heart, her own gut, and I also don't really judge her for it, because I think she's a doctor, or something, and she had to go back to work, and she,
what choice did she have?
What
was the alternative, really?
Exactly. She just said, I can't not sleep anymore. I can't. I'm back at work in a few weeks. I got to.
Goodness.
Yeah, I know.
That is heartbreaking.
Not sure this will make the edit.
That's what we do as a society, as standard to mothers and children. And
society's not in the best shape, right?
Indeed.
It's not like we all grow up to be nurturing, compassionate, forward-thinking. Not quite.
Something, yeah.
Something not quite right on the farm, Yeah, but gosh, how do we push back? We push back by doing what you're doing and doing what we're doing.
Absolutely.
And
that
talking
really is the beauty of social media at the moment. Despite the censorship. And
that's something I also say, and I kind of want to reiterate that it's not, our campaign is really not an anti-Facebook or an anti-Instagram campaign. It really isn't. I mean, the problem is much bigger than them anyway, which is a bit depressing, but because they're huge. But also, conversely, Facebook has been it was the birthplace of human milk. It's the vehicle for your messaging. It's how we get our messaging out. It's how I stayed in touch with friends. I grew up in Switzerland, in a different country, and I get to see little daily happenings from friends that I haven't lived next to for 27 odd years now, but I still feel like I know them closely, because I know that when it was super windy, the trampoline flew to the other side of the garden. You wouldn't write someone, you wouldn't phone someone to tell them that, or to tell them that you just found this incredible big juicy strawberry in your garden. So social media is brilliant because it just gives you those little tiny beautiful moments to connect. And it's not a anti-Facebook crusade, and in fact it would be amazing if they came on board and had this conversation as well, because I think they could make, oh my goodness, can you imagine the change? Can you imagine? Oh my god, the other hen is now laying an egg. The other hen is now laying an egg. Note to self, 11 o'clock in the morning.
Is it their kind of routine? Goodness. Imagine giving birth every day at 11.
Oh my god.
Just before lunch. Oh,
yes. Just a quick birth before lunch. Oh god.
So funny. Oh dear.
Oh. Well, is there, I will mute myself after I've asked the question so that you can answer without a hen laying an egg in the background. Is there anything else you want to tell us? Anything at all that you want to say about yourself, your work, anything? And now I'm going to mute myself.
Yes, let me have a little think, I suppose. I'd love to mention the book, if that's okay. Okay, so my debut book, it's called Self-Care, the Breastfeeding Edition, and it's full of 50 practical evidence-based tips for nursing moms. And it started out as just a collection of notes on my phone that I would make for myself as my son was asleep on the boob in my arms, because he'd wake if I moved, until he was about probably around 18 months old, maybe older. And it started as this collection of notes for me, in case we were ever crazy enough to have another baby. These were the things that I desperately needed to remember, because everyone says, rightly so, that there's so much that you forget. I needed something. I knew that there was no chance on this earth that we would have another child. I'm still not sure if we will, and go through the same process. I needed tips, I needed guidance. And so I started to note that down for myself. And then after a while, it became a few pages. And then I realized it was about 50 pages. And then I thought, actually, there's a lot more that I could expand upon here. This could be genuinely helpful to women all over the world who like me, don't have maybe an older sister, an aunt who's breastfed and who pops round frequently, and who can just answer those questions honestly and in a loving but real way, without glossing over breastfeeding as this beautiful magical journey with, that's all sunshine and roses, when it really isn't. And who can just offer, importantly, evidence-based advice, because yeah, as wonderful as mum groups are and forums online, there's a lot of anecdotal advice on them, and a lot of it is quite dangerous, actually, like terrible advice, like giving your little one rice or cereal in a bottle to get them sleep. I've seen that a lot. And so yeah, it was just really important to me to use the research skills that I developed in my studies to help mums in a meaningful but importantly practical way. That's what I desperately needed, and I struggled to find. And so yeah, that's what urged me to put pen to paper, and hopefully it's helping mums just to mother on their own terms for as long as they choose. That's the goal. And that's, yeah, the reception's been very warm so far, and people seem to genuinely need that support. So it feels like really rewarding and yeah, meaningful work. Yeah, I'm privileged to be able to do it.
It is meaningful. It's amazing. Thank you for that content. Thank you so much. Yeah, for all your content, for everything you do. It's just brilliant.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's been really fun talking with you and discovering just how much there's nothing you've said that hasn't been exactly the same thing in this household. It's slightly spooky, actually.
Yes, it is really.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
I can't wait to see just the project unfold, and yeah, touch base, and yeah, really excited. So grateful to be a part of it. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're kidding. I'm really grateful you're part of it. It's brilliant. So yeah, speak soon.
Yes, please. Take care, Claire. Bye, lovely.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. Over the coming weeks, we'll be sharing many more conversations with you. If you'd like to know more about the project and contribute to making it happen, please visit crowdfunder.co.uk/The Motherhood Mural. We need your help to make it all happen. Thank you.